There is no way to do awareness. Awareness is about discovering the simple feeling of being, and the simple feeling of being can't be done. Or more specifically, I think we should say that when we're identified with some sort of doing or doingness in our experience, that's the problem. And although being can't be done, or when we're identified with doing, we can't see this kind of natural, open, simple feeling of being aware, we can back our way into being. We can loosen our identification with doing or with watching from some limited perspective our experience. We call these the doorways to awareness. In Zen, they call these the gateless gates. These are the things that we can walk through, which don't really, in some sense, have an entrance. They're not something we can identify as if you do X, then you'll get being. It's really if you let go, let go, let go, then at some point you will release into being. And these are different doorways or different ways to release, to let go into this simple feeling of being. So the 4 doorways to awareness that we'll be exploring are mindful awareness, loving awareness, inquiring into awareness, and embodying awareness. So I want to go through all 4 of these and talk a little bit about what these doorways are like and how to practice them and where they lead. So mindful awareness, one of the doorways to awareness. In mindful awareness practice, we usually start by finding a very small scope of experience, a small scope of the experiential field. Often it starts with the breath or a simple body sensation. And then we learn how to gradually expand our awareness out to include more and more. We start with our physical senses often because this is the most obvious aspect of our experience. Feeling, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. And we allow that field to expand to include our emotions, which are more subtle phenomena. And then also to expand to include our thoughts and to include even very subtle sensations like intention or that feeling of about to do something, and attention, the movement, the telescoping of knowing. As we learn how to gradually expand our awareness to include more, we become aware of subtler and subtler types of sensations. And becoming aware of them means that we make them into objects. We're able to see them clearly. Awareness at some point becomes so broad and so wide and includes so much of our experience that there is nothing but the field of experience. And even that sense of there being something which is aware, which is actually attention, a feeling of attention being located somewhere, even attention being very broad and open, even that feeling of broad open attention is part of the field of what's being known. And at that point, awareness, or the sense that there was something to be aware, merges or becomes one with the field of experience. There's just this. Katagiri Roshi described that final flip or that final move into total, what we could call non-dual awareness, by saying the witness is the last stand of the ego. That place where we can hang out and just observe or witness everything that's arising is itself seemingly separated from what's arising. So even that subtle sense of open and transcendent and transparent witnessing has to dissolve into the field of what's being known. With mindful awareness, we gradually move back into this witnessing position and then even let that go into the field itself. With loving awareness, yet another doorway to awareness, it's very similar to mindful awareness in that we're expanding the scope of our experience, but instead of expanding the scope of what we're observing, we're expanding the scope of what we're feeling or allowing to be felt. We're learning to feel to infinity. with loving awareness. I had a contemplative Hinduism teacher when I was a student at Naropa University, Sri Devi Bringi, and she was an expert on the different contemplative dimensions of the Hindu tradition. And she was describing some of the different traditions. One was called Vedanta, another was called Tantra. And she was describing the core differences between these traditions. And I find that the core differences between two of the traditions she mentioned, Vedanta and Tantra, are very similar to the core differences between mindful awareness and loving awareness. She said that in the Vedanta tradition, the main practice or the main way of exploring was to say, not this, not this, not this. In the Sanskrit, that's called neti, neti, not this, not this. And the practice of not this is saying basically, okay, if I can observe an experience, I am not that experience, I'm not that. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this. And you keep pushing back the sense of the observer, making even the subtle observer itself into an object to see, oh, I'm not that thing which was observing this, until you push back far enough to where there's nothing left. There's no one left to be observing. You've pushed your way or deconstructed your way all the way back to the base. She then went on to describe Tantra, or the Hindu Tantra approach. And she said the difference between this and Vedanta is that Tantra is about saying this too, this too, this too, this too, this too. So it's about expanding the field of love and care, of allowing, of knowing, of appreciating, until there's nothing left out. That's the practice of loving awareness. Expanding the heart that can feel to include everything, nothing left out. Another Indian teacher, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, a famous Indian sage, he said, wisdom tells me that I'm nothing. That's like the neti neti, not this, not this. And then he says, love tells me that I'm everything. This too, this too, this too. And then he said, between these two, wisdom and love, my life flows. So that's a really beautiful description of these two different approaches, and then the way in which they can become, in a certain sense, unified. And what unifies them is this awareness, this non-dual awareness, these not two awareness. Another way into awareness, another doorway, is to inquire into awareness. To turn awareness back on itself using a question, an inquiry, to see what's there. One awareness inquiry is, what is aware of this experience right now? What is aware right now? Turn back and see if you can see what's seeing. The Persian poet and mystic Rumi had an answer to this. He said, no amount of searching will find this. So there's a way in which when we look for awareness through the inquiry door, we actually don't find it. By looking for what's doing the looking, we find nothing. And in that not finding is the finding. That's the experience, in quotes, of awareness. There is no thing called awareness. There is nothing doing the looking, but there is an experience which is non-conceptual of not finding anything, of kind of being pushed into this open not knowing, this open lack of an answer, a lack of a thing. And that open primordial no-thingness could be called, conventional terms, awareness. So this is another doorway to awareness, to inquire, to see who is aware, what is looking, what is aware. The last doorway to awareness is embodying awareness. In embodiment meditation, we're working on inhabiting the realm of the body. One of my teaching colleagues said it's like we're coming home to the body. What is it that we inhabit? We inhabit our home, the place we return to, we come back to. And yet for many of us, the body actually isn't our home. We don't have the experience of being in the body. And so embodiment practice and embodying awareness is about using the very posture of meditation, whatever that posture is. If we're sitting, standing, lying down, walking, it doesn't matter what the posture is. However our body is, that is the meditation, working with that. In embodiment practice, we learn how to drop down into what somatic meditation teacher Reggie Ray calls the darkness of the body. That feeling into that which we can't really fully conceptualize or know with the mind, but which we can feel from within as the body, as the soma. In that practice, a lot of what we work with is tension, tightness, holdings, areas in the body where there's something which is being perpetually gripped onto. And then we work with allowing and releasing those holdings, those tensions, those tightnesses. The result of embodying awareness is that our attention, which typically for most people tends to be centralized in the head or pools up in the head, starts to become a decentralized experience through the body, down and through. Through doing this practice more and more, we can eventually find that awareness and experience, the sense of being aware and the sense of the experience of the body, experience of life, becomes distributed through the field of phenomenal experience, through the field of what we know, through this reality that we can sense and touch and feel and embody. In that experience, awareness becomes centerless. Things are known from where they are, as they are. Nothing left out, no part of our body or of any other aspect of our experience, which is in a sense our greater body. Nothing is left out. Just this.